just that particular point, I think Martin has pointed out is, why should President Uhuru Kenyatta support someone who will perhaps not protect the interests of, certain. So doesn't this come out to, sort of validate the Deputy President's position that maybe Raila Odinga might be a project?
He is a project.
So he is a project.
Yeah, it is true, he is a project because part of what we have been treated to in the last 4 years is something that is very unique, I think, to this country. And like Martin has pointed out, in other jurisdictions, when somebody retires from public service, they've retired from public service. Like Obama now, he just does his speeches, he writes his books, he does his tours, but he does not actively engage in the level of even seeking to become a senator once again. But here we've got a situation where even governors, after they're done with their 2 terms, have the audacity to go ahead and run for Senate. I mean, it just speaks to the selfishness, for lack of a better word, of our politicians, where they sort of imagine that they're the only ones who can lead, and if they're not leading, nobody else can. It's not just a preserve of those who are at the top. We see this all along. There are people who've held an MCA seat by hook and by crook. They started as councillors and they're still there as MCA. So there's something about once you become a leader, you feel like you need to die there. It has something to do with our history. President Moi was there for very many years. You saw people like Mdivo who are an MP in the same seat for eons. It took heaven and earth to move some of these people. So there's that bit about of our history where people have to learn when to leave the stage.
All right.
That doesn't happen often. However, now when we come to the question at hand, we are faced with a situation where in this country, people don't know how not to be in power. And so even when you are unsuccessful at an elective position, or when you've been sidelined out of your position, there's something in you that still has to be at the seat of power. And that being the case, therefore, everybody makes room for themselves where they can find it. So we've seen, for example, with Honorable Raila, with the coalition government, with the handshake, you're outside, but you're inside. So when I hear Martin saying he's not in government, it's true, technically he's not in government, but quite frankly, for the president to shunt his Big Four agenda and follow BBI, there must have been some influence, or at least some wheeler dealing. We've seen what happened also with Kalonzo recently, where realistically you do not have a chance of election, but because you need a bargaining chip, you run for the sake of threatening to take away your support if you don't. 2007, 2008, Kalonzo got his 10%. If he had made a stand then and supported either side, his 10% would have made sure that we did not have the situation we had in 2007. But Kenyan politicians don't think that large. He does not think in terms of this is for the good of the country, is what can I get out of this stick? And that selfishness has to die with our politicians. That's why you've got laws, for example, like the Leadership and Integrity Act, where other Kenyans, once you're convicted, until the conviction is overturned, you stand as a convict. But for politicians, once you're convicted, until you exhaust all your channels of appeal, somehow you're still innocent. We have to come to a place where our leaders do what they're supposed to do, is lead. And in leading, there is the element of sacrifice. And in sacrifice, it means don't hold yourself to a lower standard. Hold yourself to a higher standard. Until we get there, I'm afraid what we have right now, the circus, it continues.